Okay, this is our third and final Module 10 video lecture. I'm going to wrap up by talking about Senate elections and then campaign organization. So just a couple notes about Senate elections. It's important to understand that when you're running for Senate, when you're campaigning, the senator who is already in office or the incumbent does not have as big of an advantage as a member of the House of Representatives who is the incumbent. And there are a couple of reasons for this. So basically, Senate races are usually much more competitive than House races. And even if the incumbent wins, the race can be very close. One reason for this is that senators, because there are 2 per state, they have to be what we call constituency generalists. And what that means is they have to be familiar with the needs, the interests, the attitudes, the issues of their entire state. Now, contrasting with that though, the lure of a Senate seat, being a senator, the status that goes with being a senator, can attract lots of strong candidates. So, because the role of being a senator has a relatively high status, but also the senator has to be a constituency generalist, they have to kind of have a broad knowledge of what's going on in their state. So if someone decides to run for Senate, they're probably going to be a pretty strong candidate. They're going to have some significant, generally speaking, some significant political background, and it's going to be a real a driving force for them to challenge a sitting senator because they really want that seat. So there are just more strong candidates who are running for Senate than strong candidates who are running for House. So that's just a note on Senate elections, just to keep that in mind, that there is some difference in terms of how likely senators are to keep their seats and what some of the reasons are for challengers to run against senators. Now, talking about political campaigns, I have included this information here because some of it is in your textbook, but some of it isn't. So when we talk about creating a campaign organization, these are some of the key members of any campaign organization. Now, large campaigns, especially presidential campaigns, are going to have a ton of more members. These are just 9 key team members. But I wanted you to have this information so that at least you would have a sense of what does it mean for a candidate to have a campaign organization. So there are a few key roles. There's the campaign manager, and you can read the details of each of these, the finance chair, the fundraising director, and it's important to note the distinction between these two. So the finance chair is responsible for bringing in major donors, and they pledge to raise a certain amount from donors, but in order to kind of get that started, they usually make a significant donation themselves. So they're more focused on those major donors, the large sums of money that they're trying to bring in. Now, the fundraising director is responsible for coordinating all the different types of fundraising tools so that they can reach the fundraising goal. So that means the fundraising director is definitely going to be aware of what the finance chair is doing, and if there are any maybe large donors that the finance chair is working with, the fundraising director should know that, but they will also be responsible for managing the day-to-day fundraising details. So social media, where you may receive a tweet or see an ad on Facebook asking you to give, direct mail, where you're asked to just kind of give whatever you can, in-person solicitations, the fundraising director is going to be responsible for all those things. Now, when we talk about media, we have a new media director and we have traditional media consultants. So new media is referring more to anything that's related to digital media. So the new media director is going to design that media strategy, and they're going to figure out what the messaging needs to be for all the different types of digital and electronic media sources. So if you think about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and whatever other media, digital media, even email outreach, that would fall under new media. Now, the traditional media consultant is also going to design the media strategy and the messaging, but they're really focusing on television, print, and radio sources. Those are considered the traditional media. So, of course, these 2 roles need to work together, but at this point, they are different types of media. They require different skill sets. So a campaign might actually have 2 different roles, 2 different people in those roles. Then you have the public opinion pollsters. So when we talked about the invisible primary and the fact that during that time period, the candidate is maybe engaging in some preliminary or exploratory polling. So they need to have public opinion pollsters on their staff, part of their team, so that they can not only generate polling data, but review it and interpret it to figure out what's public opinion, what are people's perceptions of the candidate, etc. We also have speech writers who are very important to get the key issues out there to kind of give the candidate their authentic voice. So the speechwriter has to determine what needs to be discussed, how long will it be discussed, what's the order in which everything will be discussed, and of course they're responsible for making sure the politician is saying what needs to be said. So they have to work with the politician to put the words in the right tone or to word the message in the right way so that it seems, that it's authentically coming from the candidate. Next, we have the volunteer coordinator and also the grassroots coordinator. So if volunteers come to the campaign office and they want to help, we always need a volunteer coordinator who is ready, responsible for bringing in volunteers, getting them scheduled, and getting them organized. And then finally, the grassroots coordinator would be the person who oversees all grassroots activities. So it's important that a candidate has a showing of grassroots support, which means that everyday regular citizens need to be showing up for rallies and fundraising drives, get out the vote, voter registration, and just for campaign speeches. So the grassroots coordinator is going to be working on the ground in the different cities that the candidate is visiting to get people to come out, hear from the candidate, and hopefully show some excitement about them. So like I said, these are just 9 basic team members. There are many, many others that are usually part of the campaign team, but it's important that you at least have a grasp of what these 9 members do and how they help a campaign function. So that concludes Module 10. For next week, next week, we'll be focusing on Chapter 12, Congress. Also, don't forget that this Sunday you have your participation number 4, which is where you are going to post an update on your research paper to the research paper discussion board. So as always, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video.